stand up on this. I'm about that life, I'm about that life, some bucks, some bucks. I'm about that life, I'm about that life, some bucks, some bucks. I'm about that life, I'm about that life, some bucks, some bucks. I'm about that life, I'm about that life, some bucks, some bucks.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Gene here, talking a little bit of football here on Buc What You Heard. The only show right now going on is just talking about the facts. I'm so excited about this football season. Everything I've been hearing about OTAs, everything I've been hearing about these players that we've drafted is just got me excited. I know a lot of the buzz with a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I follow on Twitter, a lot of people that I'm following on Facebook. Everybody's feeling a little bit of optimism here. I'm feeling a little bit more so because I've set my expectations to where I expect us to win. And, last year was kind of a disappointment where we had to take a step back, but I think we're going to take a giant step forward. So I know I haven't been on for a while, been trying to get everything straight. And my co-host, my normal co-host, Princess Nikki, I'll be trying to get her back on here, and we'll try to get things on track in the weeks to come. I know this is the right time right now to hang out with friends, be around people that you haven't been around. It's the summertime, got a lot of stuff going on. But what excites me more than anything is OTAs. Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's spring training. And it's like spring training. You're not actually going through live fire, but it's football. And we've got a lot of players that are learning the system that didn't know the system. So with that being said, I'm excited. We've got some new draft picks, and we've got some players that in free agency that I'm pretty excited about as well. So this season I have really high expectations, and I've been really quiet about getting on social media and running my mouth like I have in years past, or making comments like I have in years past. And you know what? I'm just excited. I'm quietly excited about this season. We finally have a quarterback that I feel really comfortable with, a quarterback that has a very high football IQ, a quarterback that's doing everything that he can to bring that cohesiveness together for an offense faster by working out in running drills or running laps with the offensive linemen, going to different social events. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that doesn't prove anything. But you know what? It's a step in the right direction. And what I'm seeing right now and what I'm hearing from the different reporters that are checking out OTAs, reporters let me say journalists that I actually trust. And I really do like what I'm hearing, And, all we can do is, just be good fans and hope that, everything works out. I think that Lovie Smith has a plan in place. I think he's working hand in hand with Jason Light. And despite what a lot of people are saying, they are actually working together, and they're making this system work out. So I'm really excited about that. The biggest thing for me, and every fan is looking at this differently, was the acquisition of Dirk Cotter. To me, Dirk Cotter is a great offensive coordinator. And when he was with Atlanta, I used to just curse his name. I could not stand it when that offense would get on the field, because there was just no way they weren't going to at least get 3 points out of it. And, the Bucs didn't have a very favorable record, facing them. So it's really good to have an offensive coordinator, a genuine offensive coordinator, in One Buc place as of right now. So that is the biggest thing for me, because that's what I felt was missing last year. Marcus Arroyo, he did the best he could do with the amount of experience that he had. He did the best he could do. And you know what? At the end of the day, it allowed us, or it did put us in a position to where we could get an upgrade, a definite upgrade at that position. And speaking of upgrades, I've just been really looking over the roster. I've been watching a lot of the games from last season, and basically focusing in on a lot of players that are still here from last season. And to be very honest, I believe we have a great core group of players. I know that everybody's, pretty much like, oh, they're rookies, they're not going to do good their first year. But I think with a competent coaching staff, you put people in a position to succeed. You put people in a place where they can play according to their strengths and not their weaknesses, and throw them out on the field to fail. Because every year, a coach, an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams people, they're always playing for their jobs. So by putting your best foot forward, I think that that's what we're going to see is players being put in a position to win. And we have a nice core group. As I talked about defense a little bit. We also have a nice core group on the defensive side of the ball as well, with Gerald McCoy, Clint McDonald, and you've got some other players that they've brought in that are familiar with this a similar Tampa 2 defense that we're running here. So that in itself, it gives me a lot to look forward to. And it's not going to be this big learning curve like we saw last year. And I think that, based on what I'm hearing, a lot of players are coming up to speed with this offense that is being implemented for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, that's nothing, those are nothing but positives. And, this offseason has really been, it's been ups and downs. And going all the way back to the last game of the season, when we started thinking about, okay, what's going to happen next year? We only had 2 wins. How are we going to improve this? Well, the first thing they did was they went out and they drafted a quarterback. Now, I can tell you right now, this is a hot button subject. The quarterback position has been a hot button subject for years. And that goes all the way back to Josh Freeman being drafted, where the Buccaneers actually moved up to get this guy, all the way to our current quarterback, our rookie quarterback, who hasn't been named the starter. So I'm not going to jump the gun and say that. Mike Glennon is our starter as of right now, and nobody's been named. And people can say whatever they want to about, yeah, Jameis is going to be the starter. Yeah, but as of right now, Mike Glennon is the guy that's been here for the longest period of time, and he's that guy. And I'm sure that will change, but until then, this is what we're working with right now. So basically, I just want to start at the beginning here, and as I was talking about earlier, yeah, we've drafted Jameis Winston. And another issue that a lot of people really resonate with, and that really got on a lot of people's nerves, was the offensive line. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what they did, going out, getting Ali Marpet, and going out and making some of these moves in the draft, have really helped to upgrade a lot of things that we saw in the on that offensive line last year. So, what I'm seeing right now is a lot of improvements. And yes, there are going to be some growing pains because we are implementing a new offense. I'm not making excuses, but I will say this. I do expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to compete right away. And that all goes back to, having a good, competent quarterback. That goes back to having a good, solid scheme in place. And that goes back to players being put in a position to succeed. And that's exactly where we are. And, when I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now and where they are, I look at how the running backs are really trying hard. We have Doug Martin, who's 100% healthy now, and that is exciting for me. Doug Martin has been put in a position at times where he's gotten injured, and I think they've, the former regime, not calling any names, but I do believe that they didn't utilize him properly, and it ended up with him getting injured a couple of times, and it really wore him down faster than it should have. But I think that with this being a contract season, please just look for Doug Martin to have a good season this year and make a lot of moves to secure that number one running back position again. I know that we've been talking about Charles Sims. Charles Sims was drafted to play to most likely replace Doug Martin, and he ended up coming up injured. Now, one thing I will say about him, this guy has some really nice hands. I was able to watch a lot of, like I said, I watched a lot of the games, and I watched the series that he was in, and I'm really looking forward to this guy having a breakout season as well. So, so far, we've talked about Doug Martin and we've talked about Charles Sims. I like Charles Sims' ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, and he does have really nice speed as well. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Another guy that I'm really excited about is Kenny Bell. Kenny Bell, not because of his hands, not because of the records that this guy set at Nebraska, but I like this guy because he is physical. He'll get out there and move some furniture if he's got to. That's the kind of wide receivers that you want on your team. Wide receivers that are football players, not just guys that are possession receivers, but guys that are willing to get out there and block and open up holes for if it's a running back or if it's a wide receiver, tight end, open up holes and get these guys out of the way so that we can score and get a higher percentage of yards after the catch. So I'm really excited about that too. I think that the Buccaneers once again have gone out and they've done their homework. And the one thing that I've been really preaching about the Bucs, I know a lot of people have been complaining because the Bucs didn't make a lot of big splashes in free agency, but I'm thinking the Bucs are doing low risk, high reward moves. And you may hear me say that throughout the show a few more times, but what the Bucs have gone out and done is they've spent money, but they spent money smartly, and they've gotten players that would potentially fit into their system a lot faster than somebody who was not used to the system by bringing them in and just having them learn the system where it takes longer for them to adjust. And I've seen some players where it takes them half the season. Some players don't get it till the very end of the season, which we saw a lot of that last year with Lovie Smith's offense being implemented last year. We saw a lot of players that really didn't gel, the light bulb didn't come on until the last 3 or 4 games of the season. We started seeing improvements in players and the moves they were making. So I'm excited, and you'll hear me say that too, that I am excited. This is a football season that I'm looking forward to. I will be in Tampa for at least 1 or 2 games. That is my goal, and just to be supportive of this team because right now I think we are in a good place. And what I mean by that is you look at the rest of the NFC South from top to bottom. The best team in the NFC South ended up with a 7-8-1 record. So when you talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers having 2 wins in all of last season, they were not that far off from the number 1 team. So, I just feel like the Buccaneers, if they can put everything together and keep away from the injury bug, I really do believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will make some moves. They will do some things, and they will be a problem for a lot of teams that are overlooking them as we move forward. So, with that being said, let's kind of, what I'll do here, let's kind of touch on some of the moves that the Buccaneers have made throughout the offseason. And like I said, I'm looking here at these moves, and these are low risk, high reward moves. So, that's what we want to look at is, just basically what they're doing to build this team. And we can go all the way back to the middle of last year. And the one thing that struck me was Lovie Smith did not have a problem getting rid of players. You look at Mark Barron. Mark Barron was, and let me say this. Mark Barron is a good player. He's a good player. But in today's NFL, he doesn't fit in. And the reason I say that, he's a good hitter, he's a good tackler, but he can't cover. And if you look at any of the teams, any of the elite teams in the NFL, and I hate using that word, but there are some teams that are far superior to other teams. And the one thing that they have in their pocket is a passing game, aerial attack, something that they go after the defense with the passing plays. I mean, you look at the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Roddy White. They go after defenses with their passing attack. You look at who's another team. Look at Tom Brady, what Tom Brady's been able to do. Look at Tony Romo and what Tony Romo's able to do with that passing attack. So I know it sounds like I'm getting off base here, but what I'm going back to is, if you're in a position in the secondary and you can't cover good, then you become a liability. You become that player that an offensive coordinator can say, hey, let's focus all of our plays here because this guy can't cover and we know we can get past him. So when you look at it that way, when I look at it that way, that's what I'm thinking. Wow, I've gone back and looked at Mark Barron, and there have been a couple of times, there's been more than a couple of times, where he's looked lost in passing plays, where he's gotten lost and gotten beaten and given up touchdowns because he's not a good coverage player. So by Lovie Smith sending him to the St. Louis Rams, he's letting people know that, hey, if you can't play your position, it doesn't matter who you are, we're going to get somebody in here who can. So that's what I saw last year. And that's the one thing I can say about Lovie Smith. He wants to win. He wants to build this team the way he wants it. And if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Another player that was kind of, well, not surprisingly, but he was sent packing to the Washington Redskins, was Deshaun Golston. Yeah, Deshaun Golston was another player who was totally affected by the evolution of the NFL. The NFL used to be about big hits and big plays and knocking people's helmets off and, decleating people. But you know what? It seems like after the lawsuit and they got more health conscious and worried about head injuries, players like that are being phased out of the league. And when you took that big hit ability away from Deshaun Golston, he was left as not quite the player that you would want in that position. You want somebody, once again, who can cover or who can come up and make the plays. So once again, there was another player that Lovie Smith felt like wasn't a integral part of this Tampa 2 defense. So he was released as well. So basically, you can kind of see where Lovie Smith and Jason Licht are building this team the right way, in my opinion. And I think moving forward, you're going to really see a whole lot more of that, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to start tweaking things to get these players in the right position and make sure that these players are in a position to where they can truly help out the team. So, just based on, as we're talking about transactions, we're talking about how they were getting rid of players that they didn't feel really fit into the overall scheme. So, we look at these different players and, I was not surprised. It was a 50-50 shot that either Deshaun Golston was going to leave or he was going to stay. And I could see them riding it out with him. Or, basically what they did was they got rid of him. And it looks like based on the move, and we'll just kind of go through some of these transactions here. That was, like I said, one move that I was not totally unexpected. So we look at a lot of the moves that they've made, and a lot of them, one that really sticks out to me was the fact that they have not re-signed Levante David. Now, this is kind of a two-part deal for me. I realize that Levante David, the Bucs would be better served to sign him now as opposed to paying more money on the back end when with him in a contract season, he's going to have a higher asking price. So everybody I've talked to reassures me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to re-sign this guy. They are going to get it right, and they are going to pay him what he's worth. Because I tell you what, players like him, a very special player, and unfortunately, and this is the one thing that I do feel bad about, is the Bucs aren't winning more to where he could go to a well-deserved Pro Bowl. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's been slighted the last 2 years, and he should have been at the Pro Bowl. Yeah, I may sound like a homer, but hey, this is my show and this is my opinion. And that's what I honestly believe, is that he's been slighted and he should have gone to at least one Pro Bowl. Let's call it what it is. Now, some of the other moves that the Buccaneers are making, they're trying to develop their core players. And then from there, they're trying to get depth in certain positions. And this is what you're seeing, where they're bringing players in, they're tweaking things, and they're getting things done. So, I mean, based on what I'm seeing, I'm really excited. I mean, when we go back to February when they released Josh McCown, and, that let us know that the Buccaneers were not happy with his performance, and they had something else in mind. They had a different direction they were going. So by getting rid of him, they've they're letting the fan base know, hey, we've got some other things in mind. And that was just kind of the start of free agency at that point. And from there, they re-signed Bradley McDougald, who to me played a very solid last portion of the season. I was very happy with him, and it really shows that the Buccaneers are committed to winning by bringing in players who are hungry, who really want to do the job, who really want to stand out, and that's basically how you build that team from the ground up. Now, I look at that, and then the next move they made on the same day, they re-signed Mike Jenkins to a one-year contract. And because of his injuries, I guess they're giving him another chance to really show what he can do. So that to me was another good move, and I'm real happy about that. And if anything, it's going to create depth in that position, which we are really in need of as the season goes on. So that's something I'm really excited about. The next move that that I really liked, and like I said, there haven't been too many moves that I haven't liked that the Bucs have made. They re-signed, they extended their offer for exclusive rights to Danny Lansana, and he's another player who I felt was a bright spot in that 2-win season, where he finally came on in the last portion of it, and he really did a good job. So he's another player that I was really excited about, that they've actually given him a chance, and hopefully we could see big things from him as well. It looks like one of the moves, and I'm not sure about it, is with Luke Stalker. Every coach that I've seen with Luke Stalker, or since Luke Stalker has been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, people have seen an upside for him. And for me, I don't know, maybe I'm just not seeing something. I guess he's a decent blocker. There was a big debate about him with my friends on You Buck and Right, one of the pages on a Buccaneers page on Facebook, where we debate seriously with facts and not fiction about different players. And one thing that I did note was that one of the guys was talking about how good of a blocker he is, how good of a player that can release and get out into open space. But the one thing that I have problems with is Luke Stalker cannot stay healthy. And that's the one thing that to me is kind of important in the position that he in the tight end position is having a guy that is healthy and that can remain healthy. So, with that being said, it's like, well, what do? You want to build depth. You've got Austin Safarian-Jenkins, and now you've got Luke Stalker. And, are they going to get another tight end, or are these going to be the only two tight ends that we'll see? It's only time will tell. And, once again, we're in a place right now where it's not quite camp and we're far removed from the draft. So we're in a place where, we're getting close. People are starting to get wound up, and we're really getting excited about, the things that we have to look forward to. Another move that the Buccaneers made when they re-signed Major Wright to a 3-year contract. To be very honest, I thought Major Wright was very solid. I thought that he handled the position a lot better than some of the other guys that have been in that position in the past few years. He is familiar with that Tampa 2 defense, so that makes him a very important piece to this defense. So I think that was a very smart move to re-sign him as well. And then it looks like the Buccaneers also re-signed Lawrence Sidbury, and they signed him to a 1-year contract. So basically, we'll see, and I think you'll really get to see a better idea of how things are once camp starts rolling around. We'll be able to see how these players are truly fitting into this system. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to is, what are these players going to bring to the table? So that's another thing. That's, we'll save that for another show as we get closer. And, the Major Wright move, I like that. I like the fact that they, reached out to Bobby Rainey, and, they got rid of a lot of luggage that there were players that didn't produce. There were players that, probably really didn't want to be in Tampa. And I think the Buccaneers rectified some situations. And, this is where I came to really respect Jason Light, because they went out in free agency last year, got all these players, and a lot of players didn't pan out. So you know what they did? They jettisoned them because they knew this guy is not going to fit in this system. This guy is not for us. So let's move on. So what they did was they went ahead and they got rid of Josh McCown, who they didn't feel was the answer. I think he was just kind of a holdover until they got who they really wanted. And I look at this move with Anthony Collins. Anthony Collins was a free agent acquisition, and hey, they jettisoned him as well. So you can kind of see where the Buccaneers, the transformation of this team is appearing before our eyes. We see different moves that they're making. Another move that I really like, and it's a matter of time to know if this is truly a good move, but they picked up Bruce Carter, linebacker Bruce Carter, and they signed him to a 4-year contract. I think that was a solid move to really help this defense. And if you look at the moves that the Bucs are making, the Bucs are going from defense to offense, offense to defense. It's very balanced in the way that they're building this Lovie Smith team up. And you can see Lovie Smith's handprint on this team as we move forward. I think you're going to see a lot more emphasis on the defense next year, I think, or this season. And, based on the schedule, I don't see any teams that are just going to come in and blow out the Bucs. I don't. There might be some games where the Bucs get blown out, but realistically, as I look through our schedule, I see us competing with almost every team I will say, yeah, almost every team that's on the schedule. I know a lot of people are going to be like, Gene, you're such a homer, or this, that, and the other. You know what? When you look at the Buccaneers last year, and this is not a cop-out, these are facts. The Bucs lost 7 games. Was it 7 games by 8 points or less? So that means to me, so you take that 7 games or 8 games, let's say 7 games. We'll be generous here. we'll say 7 games that they lost by 8 points or less. That's a touchdown or extra in a 2-point conversion. And when you look at that, and you look at the 2 wins on top of that, you're looking at a team that was in the majority of the games that they played in last season, despite the fact they did not have an offensive coordinator, and despite the fact that you're implementing a new defense in place, which is totally different from what the former regime was running. So to me, these are all positives, totally positive, And as I look through it, like I said, as I look through the schedule, I see us competing in almost every game that we're in. Now, with that being said, this all looks well and fine on paper, but we all know that injuries occur. We all know that there are going to be instances where players decide at the last minute that they want a better contract, which, as we're talking about transactions, we're talking about DeMar Dotson. DeMar Dotson is that guy that's been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers since 2012, I believe. And DeMar Dotson was that guy who came in making $750,000. But you know what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did? They paid him $2.4 million. And then they turned around in 2013 and paid this man $4.2 million. And you look at this contract that he's got right now, the Bucs recognize how important DeMar Dotson is, and here he is sitting out. He wants more money. Well, you know what? In my personal opinion, he should blame his agent for that one. You know what I'm saying? What he's doing is not helping the team. And people can say all they want to, okay, NFL is a business. Yeah, it's a business. I work for a business. What would it look like? Me, I just got a raise. I got a raise 9 months ago. And I come back into my boss's office and I tell him, hey, I want a raise. I don't like this. I don't like the way this is working out. I want more money, or I'm not coming to work tomorrow. How is that going to work out? It's stupid when you listen to it that way. It's stupid. And I like DeMar Dotson. I like his game. I don't feel that anybody right now at this juncture that was part of that 2-win team from last year should be asking for any more money. That's just my personal opinion on it. And when you look at it that way, it's like, wow, what is this? What is this guy thinking? Does he think that he's bigger than the game? I mean, I guess he's not realizing that the Bucs aren't going to negotiate with this guy until he comes back into camp. And the fact that he's missing OTAs, it's going to affect the quarterback. It's going to affect the cohesion of the offensive line. It's going to affect the whole team because he's holding out. You know what? He should have held out 2 years ago and got the amount of money that he wanted. To me, he signed that contract in 2013, $4.2 million. And you know what? He needs to go on and play it out. I don't understand this whole thing because, honestly, the offensive line was not the best. The offensive line was downright horrible, and that includes him. And I can show you plays that he missed out on. And for him to be asking for more money without proving that he's a better player is ludicrous. So, you know what? People can say, oh, this is a business. Football is a business. The NFL is a business. You know what? It is a business, but it's a business of what have you done for me lately? And when you look at what DeMar Dotson did last year, it does not warrant a raise in any way, shape, or form. And I will argue this with anybody. Yeah, he may be the best player on the offensive line, but at the end of the day, he didn't do enough. He did not do enough. So let's go ahead and squash all that. DeMar Dotson needs to be in camp. He needs to be honing his skills. He needs to be bettering his game so he can turn around and ask for more money at the end of this season when he's proven when the Bucs have a better record than they did last year, when he's proven that he deserves that money. So anybody that's saying, "Oh, I feel bad for DeMar Dotson. He's only making $4.2 million." Yeah, whatever. Does he really deserve that $4.2 million check based on what happened last season? Well, that remains to be seen. So, I just feel like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to negotiate with him until he gets back in camp, which, you know what? That's on him. Nobody's bigger than the game. Nobody's bigger than the team. It may put him over a barrel, but you know what? On opening day, they're going to still go out there and play with or without him. So he needs to think about that. And you know what? Personally, when I think about people like that, it makes you wonder what. I know that he's probably a good teammate. I'm not going to take anything away from him in that aspect, but when you leave your team high and dry, when you leave your new quarterback high and dry, it's like, well, what do you do? What kind of player is he really? And his personal interests supersede the rest of the team. And I think the Bucs were, more than generous paying him in the first place. So, at the end of the day, it comes down to what's gonna happen. Is he gonna come back as an end of camp? Is he gonna turn around and say, hey, you know what? We need to get this all fixed and we need to make this work. So, yeah, I've like I said, I've read a lot of comments. A lot of people are saying, yeah, maybe he should hold out for more money, but he just signed a contract in 2013. I could understand if he was a rookie and he was making $2.4 million or something like that, and the Bucs weren't even thinking about talking to him, and he wanted to negotiate. I could see that. But the fact that the Bucs have worked with him and they've continually given him raises, it just, to me, it's just greed. So that's my personal opinion, and this is my show, so that's how it's going to be. So, enough about that. I know it's kind of frustrating for me because I see so many good things, so many potential good things from this team, and what they're going to need is that cohesion. They're going to need that the ability to get out there and make those plays. So, we'll see. We'll just have to see what happens and see how things work out from there. But going back to the transactions that the Bucs have made, we look at the move with defensive tackle Henry Melton, signing Chris Conti to a one-year contract. These are all low-risk, high-reward moves. I feel like these are players that can definitely contribute to the team and definitely make an impact immediately. And this helps with depth. I think this, maybe if these players play good and they don't get injured, maybe they get signed to a little bit longer contract. And when the Buccaneers go into the draft or they go into free agency, they're starting to build that. They're starting to build that foundation, and they're starting to get that depth that we haven't seen with the Buccaneers since 2003, 2004, because it's just been a turnstile of players coming in, players going out. And it's really a shame that, we've had some really talented players, aka Wallace Gilberry, aka, George Johnson. We've had really good players, and they've ended up going to other teams, and they've done well. I look at the tight end that went to the who is a tight end? There was a tight end that went to the New England Patriots in the Logan Mankins trade, and I'm drawing a blank, and I do apologize for that. That rarely ever happens. Tell you in just a second here. Tim Wright, Rutgers guy. He was part of the former regime, and at the end of the day, Lovie Smith decided that he was going to use him as trade bait, and ended up trading him to the New England Patriots for Logan Mankins, who, a lot of people are questioning Logan Mankins, but I can tell you right now, based on the interviews that I've seen, I think it was quite a culture shock for him to go from the New England Patriots to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think with the culture change that's coming along in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization, I think he's going to fit in and he's going to make some big changes. And I really feel like, that was a good move. That was a smart move. I think he'll be able to mentor these new offensive linemen that we have. And I think he'll also be able to bring that winning attitude to a lot of the other players that the Buccaneers have as well. So once again, I talk about that core group. I talk about the nucleus. I talk about how all these players are going to gel together. And this is something that, I saw things last year, and you know how you kind of turn a blind eye, you see something, but you don't want to believe that's how it's going to be. I was of the mind that the Buccaneers were going to win at least, eight or nine games last season when Lovie Smith came in. And I think as a fan, there are several different kinds of fans. There's one kind of fan who's a pessimist, who doesn't believe that his team is going to do anything. He doesn't believe that his team is going to make those adjustments and they're going to suffer because the moves he didn't like weren't made. Then you have another fan who's supposedly a realist, who looks at the team, who looks at the schedule, and puts all that together and decides what he feels like his team is going to do. Then you've got people like me. And yeah, I've looked at the team. I've looked at the game film. I've painstakingly watched games that just made me want to punch myself in the face because the Bucs were playing so bad. And at the end of the day, I do believe that the Buccaneers will compete for the NFC South. We will. We may not win it, but we will compete. We will be in every game. And I'm going to go on record saying this right now. That blowout game those blowout games, plural, against the Ravens and against the Atlanta Falcons will not happen again this season. Will not happen. Unless we get like a boatload of injuries, that will not happen again. And I tell you why. I think we have a quarterback now who's competitive. I think we have an offensive coordinator who can make adjustments at halftime. I think we have a defense in place that's been in place for a season that too can go in and make adjustments at halftime. The one thing that I saw over the past 5 years was a team that went out and part of the time they couldn't make that comeback win, and another part of the time they couldn't make adjustments after halftime. So basically, they played the same game from first quarter to fourth quarter. So what I'm seeing now, which really gives me hope, is the fact that we have a proven winning coach. We have a proven winning offensive coordinator. We have a quarterback who has an impeccable resume from college coming into the NFL. And yeah, I know a lot of people are thinking, you know what? He hasn't played a down. He hasn't played a snap. But I do believe that today's quarterbacks win games from the neck up. Yeah, you have some quarterbacks that are able to win with a physical gameplay, like your Cam Newton. He can win games with being physical, being able to run and stretch plays with his legs. But what you want is a quarterback that can who's a cerebral quarterback. I look at a Peyton Manning. I look at a Tom Brady. I look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, very cerebral. Another quarterback that never gets the credit that's due to him is Russell Wilson. Charlie Hustle, he can play from the neck up. And he's shown that the last two Super Bowls that he's been in. So there's another quarterback that's really, to me, plays the game, wins game from the neck up. So those are the kind of quarterbacks that you want on your team. The NFL has evolved so much that it's more of a passing league. It's not as much, if you've got a stellar defense, you can put your stellar defense on the field and they're going to win the game for you. You're not really not seeing that anymore. You're seeing this is a passing league, and this league is more predicated on offense than it is on defense. And the league is forever evolving, and we're going to continually see different things. But as it stands right now, the quarterbacks that I mentioned to you are guys that make these plays. They're able to look at a defense and break that defense down and say, this is where I need to make these plays at. So for me, I feel like the one thing that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been missing, and that includes, going and actually going back to 2010, is a franchise quarterback. And I'm not taking anything away from Josh Freeman. I was a big Freeman fan. Believe me, I was a big Freeman fan. But at the end of the day, when you get to it, you get to a certain point in a player's career, and they're either going to catch on, and the light bulb's going to come on, and they're going to succeed, or they're going to maintain mediocre. And to me, I don't like mediocre. I'm not a mediocre person. I don't care for mediocre. And that's basically what I saw was mediocre play. When you can't consistently make good plays, when you can't consistently make good decisions when the game's on the line, or even when the game's not on the line, when you put your team in a position where they have to come from behind to win a game, you're a mediocre quarterback. And I don't care what anybody says. And there again, when you talk about the quarterbacks that the Bucs have had, you start with Josh Freeman with the Raheem Morris era, and then from there you had the Mike Glennon, and Mike Glennon is a thinner version, less athletic, in my opinion, than Josh Freeman was. And the reason I say that is he's inconsistent with his throws. I've watched this guy hold onto the ball way too long, and it makes the offensive line look bad because they've got to hold their blocks longer, and it makes the secondary look bad because they've got to cover their receiver longer. So this guy not having that quick reflex ability, it just makes it hard. It makes it hard for everybody on the offense. Another thing, I've watched games with this guy where he's put his team in a position to win, and then he doesn't make the right play. I've seen plays where he runs out of bounds before the first down marker. I've watched plays where he's held the ball and then he realizes that a receiver is open and he tries to throw it, and it's either incomplete, batted down, or intercepted. So, yeah, this guy plays safe. He's got low turnovers, but at the end of the day, he's not helping his team win. All the 3 and outs that I saw, unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. When he was a rookie, yeah, he had a good season, but at the end of the day, his numbers were average. This guy is not the answer. He's not going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Super Bowl. Now, if anybody wants to debate me on that, I'll be more than happy to go, back and forth with you on that one, because I just don't see it. I do not see him making it or taking a team to the Super Bowl, much less taking them to the playoffs. So I think that what Lovie Smith and Jason Light saw in the quarterback position is the same thing a lot of us fans saw in the quarterback position, and that was mediocrity. And you know what? If you're going to try to make a run for the playoffs, if you're even going to try to make a run for the division, and you're short-sighted, and you want to that's your idea of success, well, you know what? He's the quarterback for you. But as far as I'm concerned, he is a great backup quarterback. And that's about all he's going to be, is a backup quarterback. So, when you look at that kind of stuff, I mean, that's just basically what I'm seeing, is a guy that, and this is not just me. I've talked to other fans in other teams in this division, Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, and New Orleans Saints, and I'm sorry, but our quarterbacks do not strike fear in them. When Drew Brees is on top of his game, and you realize Drew Brees is coming to Tampa, you're like, oh man, we got to deal with this guy again. When Drew Brees has the full caveat of full arsenal at his disposal, and this guy can make those throws, you're like, wow, we got to deal with this guy again. And you're always wondering, you know, is our team going to beat them? And as far as I'm concerned, Drew Brees has had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers number for the past 3.5 years. That's just how important Drew Brees is to the New Orleans Saints, and how much of an effect he's had on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at Cam Newton, the effect that Cam Newton has. When Cam Newton's coming to Tampa, you know it's going to be a tough game, and you know that this guy could potentially make plays as well. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this. And the fact that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now have what we would call our franchise quarterback is something that I'm really looking forward to. And I know I've kind of gotten off on a tangent and gotten away from what I was, basically talking about. So I'll get back to that. And, the transactions that the Buccaneers have made to really bring up that depth and get players in positions to succeed. And I know we talked about Chris Conte was the last thing I think I talked about. And then we saw, in April, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got rid of Deshaun Golston and they sent him to the Washington Redskins for an undisclosed pick in 2016. So that right there was really a point for me saying that Lovie Smith wants to improve these different positions. This is what I'm seeing is a guy who's like, okay, I've looked at the game film, I've watched you play, I've seen your attitude, I've seen what your potential could be, and I'm sorry, you're just not going to fit in that position. We're going to try to get an upgrade in that position. And that's what I kind of took from that move, getting rid of Deshaun Golston, who, by the way, I think Deshaun Golston is a class act. Meeting him and talking to him on Twitter and, just getting to know, a little bit about him and seeing his life, I really have a lot of respect for him. Mason Foster was another player that the Buccaneers didn't re-sign, and he ended up signing with the Chicago Bears. And he was another player, class act. Talked to him on Twitter. I met him once in person, and once again, guy's a class act. He's one of those guys, never had issues off the field. He came from a very rough neighborhood. He came from a very rough area, and you look at him now, and he is a very classy individual. Seaside in the house. So, it was sad to lose him. But once again, Lovie Smith is looking at upgrading in these different positions. And in his mind, I think he feels like he could upgrade and get another player and possibly get more depth in that position. And the big move to me, and I say this because I never wanted this guy to leave Tampa in the first place, was picking up George Johnson. So George Johnson was a beast last year with Detroit. Really liked this guy. I liked him when he was at Tampa. Couldn't figure out why they didn't keep him. To this day, being who the head coach is and being who the general manager are, being who those guys are, I'll put it this way. I'm not even going to try to figure out why they do what they do. I just leave it alone because I'll just get frustrated. So with that move, that kind of sets us up to what I think personally, on paper, was a very successful draft. And a lot of things will not really shake out until maybe a year from now. But top to bottom, the moves that the Bucs made in the draft made me really happy. And I think that they really put the Buccaneers in a position for success for the next couple of years. And once again, they really helped that foundation for this team to be successful for years to come. And with the first pick of the draft, they picked up Jameis Winston, which was pretty much a no-brainer. I know a lot of people liked Marcus Mariota, and we could save that for another conversation. For whatever reason, people either didn't like the off-the-field antics of a Jameis Winston, or they liked the more quiet, less bravado, more laid-back kind of quarterback like a Marcus Mariota. But once again, we could save that for another conversation. So, with that move, the Buccaneers secured their franchise quarterback, which to me was a great move, which to me was something that has a lot of fans excited. We finally said, you know what, we're going to go out and we're going to draft a quarterback, and we're going to do our homework, and we're going to get the right guy. So, time will tell if this was a good move, but on paper, as I said, this was a good move. The second move that they made in the draft was drafting Donovan Smith. And, basically getting him in there was, a really, a great move. I think that he's one of those guys that he's going to be very beneficial. I feel like, with what his skill set is, I think he's going to fit on that offensive line, and I think he's going to make an impact as well. So, with that move right there, picking up Donovan Smith, if he can stay healthy, I think that he will definitely be a big part of this offensive line for years to come. Next move that they picked up was Ali Marpet. And he was, to me, out of the guard out of Hobart. And I will tell you right now, based on everything that I've heard, based on the reports that I heard out of the Senior Bowl, based on the reports that I've heard from scouts, this guy will be a big-time player. I know a lot of people may not think so. Yeah, he's a rookie. He hasn't played it down. But his upside, as far as I'm concerned, is going to really help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. It's going to bring a little bit of that nastiness that we haven't had on that offensive line for some time. It's going to bring that back. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that was a great move. My hats off to the general manager and the head coach again. I think it was a great move. The next move was picking up Quan Alexander in the 4th round. And Quan Alexander, from what I'm hearing, this guy has a high motor, and he's trying to be in almost every play of that he can, and he's really making some good moves. This is one of those players that I really kind of slept on. I didn't really know a whole lot about him, and I had to base a lot of my information on YouTube videos of him playing and the things that he did in the SEC. So on this pick, I'm going to have to say I'm not sure. I'm undecided on this pick here. This is probably the only pick that I'm truly undecided on. The next pick in the 5th round, Kenny Bell. The Buccaneers knocked this out of the park. And I think I said this at the beginning of the podcast. This guy is the guy that I'm super excited about. This guy is the guy that's physical. He can catch the ball, speed in space, but at the same time, he'll light somebody up. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is go out and Google Kenny Bell, the hit, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. This guy, he gets in there. He's not afraid to block. You have some players that are position players, a tight end, a wide receiver, running back, fullback. This guy is a football player. This guy goes out, and it doesn't matter if he's not in a route, he'll get out there and block. He'll get out there and do what he has to do to make this play work. And that's what I'm super excited about here. The next pick in the 6th round, they picked up Kalen Clay out of Utah. Once again, I saw him. I'm on the. I guess we need help with special teams, which I can see why they would pick him up for special teams play. And I think that that was a good move. That was a good move because we need help and we need competition at that special teams. So I think that at the end of the day, this may turn out to be a good play, but I'm going to reserve judgment for seeing him play, whether it's in camp or whether it's seeing him play in person. So we'll see. So Kalen Clay, I'm going to say it's a good move because we are in need of a good kick returner, and you roll the dice. I mean, nobody thought that some of these players that have been drafted, nobody thought that some of these players that have been drafted would turn out to be good kick returners. So, you roll the dice with that position, and hopefully this is that guy that can get some touchdowns, get us some kick returns for touchdowns, get us some punt returns for touchdowns. Hopefully this is that guy. So, it all remains to be seen, where we are with that. And last but not least was the fullback Joey Losefa out of Hawaii. And just looking at this guy. This guy's a freaking freight train. I mean, he's running over people. He's making people. He's putting lumps on people's heads. So that's what we need, is that competition in the fullback position. I see this guy as a starter, and the reason I say that is because he's got nice hands. He can actually catch the ball and yards after the catch. If you get him rolling downhill, you think about a Rock Cartwright kind of player, where that dude, you get him some momentum and he's going to run over some people. So, in my opinion, I think that was, top to bottom, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a really good draft, and I really do believe that a lot of these players are going to contribute. I can't say all of them because that rarely happens where everybody in the draft is successful, but I do believe that the vast majority of the people in this draft, if they can stay healthy, if they have that desire, if they learn the playbook, will be successful with this team. Because I do believe that, once again, Lovie Smith is not going to put a player in a bad position to where they won't succeed. So that's kind of where we are right now with free agency, with some of the transactions that the Bucs have made. And I'm really excited, like I said, about a lot of these plays, which, as we look at these moves, the Buccaneers didn't stop there. This is the thing. They didn't stop at the draft. They turned around and they picked up DJ Swearinger from the Houston Texans. And to me, that was a smooth move. DJ Swearinger is a hitter. He's a thumper. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, from what I've seen, he's got better coverage skills than the predecessors that were here last year. So I think that DJ Swearinger, he's got a breath of fresh air. He's starting with a new team, and I think he's going to fit in. And once again, to me, your head coach can make the biggest difference in the world. Biggest difference in the world. And I'm going to say this. I think that he's going to turn his career around, and I think he's going to make an impact with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that's where it's going to be. Now, to close all this out, we talked about all these players that were drafted. And as of yesterday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have signed every single one of their draft picks. This is not a headache. No holdouts. They're in camp. They're learning. They're learning the book. They're learning the system. They're bonding with their teammates. Everything positive that you want from a draft pick, the Buccaneers took care of business. They basically went in, signed these guys, got all that mess out of the way. That's something, now the media has nothing to dwell on with that, and they can go into camp and focus on football, which to me, that's what it all comes down to. So, at the end of the day, my hat's off to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office, the coaches, the scouts, for what I consider a very good draft this season. And I can't say that I've been this happy with the draft for quite some time. So, as far as I'm concerned, hey, this was a great draft. And it kind of brings us fast forward. Here we are to today. So, with the exception of DeMar Dotson, with the exception of Ali Marpet with the potential hamstring injury, I am really excited about this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I am really excited about who our coach is. I'm really excited about who our offensive coordinator is. And I can tell you right now, all the fans that are out there who are naysayers, who are waiting, who are like, I'm not sure, maybe we'll give it a little bit of time and we'll see how everything works out. Let me say this. Why not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Why not? We have just as much, I think we have just as much of a opportunity to win the NFC South. We have a competitive edge to where we can compete with anybody in the NFC South. And I guarantee you, like I said, and I'll say it again, I guarantee you we will not get blown out like we did last year. It will not happen. Will not happen. If it does happen, you will see me on a podcast first and foremost for the first segment talking about how I was wrong. First and foremost, hey, I own it. If I screw up, I own it. And that's just how it is. So, based on everything that I'm seeing right now, based on the way the rookie OTAs went, based on the way the OTAs went, and we're coming up on the mandatory camp coming up, I am hyped about this. If you're a Bucs fan, how can you not be hyped about this? Really, this to me is a special year. And you know what? I want to give a shout out to Doug Williams and Mike Allstott, two people that have been inducted into the Ring of Honor. And you know what? I was going to, I was all set in stone. I was going to see Doug Williams inducted into the Ring of Honor. But 2 weeks ago, my son got here from Tampa. And guess who was on the plane with my son? Mike Allstott. Got to meet him, got to talk to him, and just how positive, what a great, just a great human being that he is. Taking time with fans. And I can't tell you, how excited I was. I met Mike Allstott back in 2001, 2002. I would say 2002. I met him at a training camp. And he took time to talk to me then. No different than he is now. There are only so many players that, I consider superstars, like a Mike Allstott. Derek Jeter is another player that I've met him on multiple occasions, and he stopped and talked to me for long periods of time. We just chopped it up. Chill. No problem. No diva. Just cool as he can be. And, those players, I definitely give them props. James Wilder, another player, met him in person. We chopped it up, chilled over a glass of scotch, It's just players like that, it really makes being a fan of your team fun. The history that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has, going back to 1976, all the way to the present, you think about all the different players that have come through the Tampa Bay organization. And it's really interesting. We've had some real characters come through here. But I tell you what, nothing makes me prouder than being a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Yeah, I'm a Yankees fan. We know about the Yankees are all about winning. And, I love my Tampa Bay Buccaneers just as much. I really think that this is going to be a special season for us. And, we're going to be a problem for a lot of teams. And you can, like I said, there's three different types of fans. Those fans who are pessimists, those fans who are realists, and then you got fans like me. And like I keep telling the Buccaneer Nation, why not us? Why not us? We have just as much opportunity to win as anybody else does. And right now, I do want to give a shout out to some very special people who have really been very supportive of me and really, really great people to work with. Carolina Cat Chronicles. I know that they have a rotten, horrible, crummy team, but those are guys that have been very supportive of me with my podcast, with with a lot of stuff that I've done, and they've been nothing but great. John, Superfan Blakely. John, even though we live on different parts of the country, John has been very supportive as well. He's kept me he's kept me in the loop on a lot of things, and he's another person that I have so much respect for. Scott Karasik, he is a writer for Bleacher Report and he's a diehard Atlanta Falcons fan. Much respect to you, bro. I appreciate you, showing support. Uh, let's see here. Who else am I missing? Um, Basically, everybody that's associated with Buccaneer Invasion. It's the Facebook. It's the Facebook Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan base. A lot of great fans on there. If you are a Bucs fan and you are on Facebook, Buccaneer Invasion is definitely something that I would suggest checking out. Really great. I'm really, like I said, I can't say anything bad about them. They are awesome, and I couldn't ask for a better fan base. I may not agree with everything they say, but at the end of the day, we're all Bucs fans, and that's what it all comes down to. Daniel Shreve, Bucko Bruce. Um, let's see, who else am I missing? Ramona Ruiz, congratulations on your marriage, and I hope for you to have many, many happy years. Um, let's see, who else am I missing here? My co-host, of course, Princess Nikki, who will be back on the show with me next week, and we'll try to make this a more consistent as we are getting closer to the NFL season. What I will try to do is just put out shouts and make sure that everybody gets a chance to be ready. If you do feel like, hey, I got something I want to say and you want to, jump on here, please let me know ahead of time and I'll do what I can to get you on, get you your few minutes to, talk about, what you have to say. Uh, Jamal J Buck, my man, he was fortunately for me, he was good enough to call in during the draft and, give us play-by-play of what he's seeing and how things were going on with the draft, and I really appreciate that as well. If I've missed anybody, let me know. I will make sure to get you on the next time. To everybody, anybody that watches this, give me a like. You don't have to give me a like. It's kind of up to you. If you want to critique the show, I'm cool with that too. All I can do is say, thank you for taking the time to look at everything. And we will be doing this on a more consistent basis. And we'll try to give you up to the minute shots on what's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization, what we're seeing. And, hopefully either myself or Princess Nikki will be in Tampa at one time or another, and we can kind of give you the pulse on what's going on with the Tampa Bay organization. So for now, thank you. I really appreciate everything, and everybody have a good night. And once again, this is Buc What You Heard, and thanks a lot. And before I let you go, also I do want to point out, I do want to mention that we will be on this time next week. So look for us about this time, and we'll be ready to give you some more stuff. Thank you.
Fire them cannons when you see that red and blue turn, raise them flags that bring them names and let them know it's no excuses. And we pirates over here, ain't no briars over here. You touch that ball and feel that we need them sirens over here. Boy, what you think? Freezes nothing, make them saints go off that plane. Shoot that falcon out that air and melt that ice inside my drink. Pull that ship up to the bank.